All right, let's take a look at some geometry. So we're going to go over Pythagorean theorem, circles, including area and arc length, some stuff about sides and angles, and then some area and perimeter. Okay, so we start off with Pythagorean theorem. So the formula we need to be familiar with for Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, and that's if it's a right triangle. Okay, and so if you're told like, right, C is the hypotenuse, that's what that's referred to, right? That's the longer part of that triangle, right? And if you're told A equals 9 and B equals 12, and they ask you to solve for C, you should be able to do that. Okay, so to plug these in, that would be like, so A is 9, B is 12, equals C squared, right? And then if we kind of just do some math here, 9 squared is 81, 12 squared is 144, equals C squared. If we add those two up, we get 225 equals C squared. Okay, and then I got to square root this so I can just get C. Right, and if we do that, we get 15 for the hypotenuse. Okay, so that's the kind of thing you'd want to be able to be familiar with for Pythagorean theorem, right? A squared plus b squared equals c squared, and then be able to apply it, right? So many times they will just give you a and b and ask you to solve for c, but they could give you a and c and ask you to solve for b. Either way, you're just plugging it in, and then you're going to end up having to do a square root at the end. Okay. Let's get the eraser going here, and then we'll do some stuff with circles. So for area of a circle, probably pretty familiar, although you may have to re-familiarize yourself just with the formula. But for arc length, it's possible that that's new. Okay, so, or it might be just, again, something you just have to remember. All right, so here's our circle, and we need to know area equals pi r squared. Okay, that's our formula. And so if they tell us that diameter equals 12, okay, we also need to know that radius, right, and that's all they tell us. And they say find area, diameter equals 12. If diameter equals 12, radius is only half, right? Diameter is all the way across here. Radius is only half. Okay, so if diameter equals 12, radius equals 6, then we can go ahead and solve this guy, right? Area equals pi, we just said radius is 6, squared, right? 6 squared is 36. There we go. That's our answer, right? That is our answer for the area in which the diameter is 12 or the radius is 6. Okay, now let's get rid of this, and now let's talk about arc length. Arc length, people miss this question a lot. Okay, so still we're going to say radius is 6. And then say we were told that the arc length we were given is 120 degrees and asked to find the circumference of the circle. Okay, so we'll just say arc equals 120, they said, right? 120 degrees. Okay, so when you're given an arc length question, is your first thing is to think about this 120 in terms of a fraction of a whole circle, right? So a whole circle is 360 degrees. And hopefully we can see that 120 over 360 is 1/3. If we divide each side by 120, we get this down to 1/3. Okay, so now we need to know the formula for circumference of a circle. Circumference equals 2 pi r. Okay, and then we're going to apply this 1/3 at the end. Okay, so let's just find the circumference, and then we're going to multiply it by 1/3, and that's going to be our answer. Okay, so C equals 2 pi r, right? So 2 times pi times 6. Okay, and that's 12 pi, yes? Okay, and that's circumference. Okay, so this is a formula you need to know, right? So the first one was area equals pi r squared for a circle. The second one is circumference equals 2 pi r. That's something you just have to dedicate to your memory. It's going to be important for probably more than one question. Okay, so we know this, the circumference is 12 pi r, and then all we're going to do is, for arc length, is 1/3 times that circumference. And 1/3 times 12 is 4. There's your answer, 4 pi. Okay, so that's how you do arc length. They can take a few practice runs to get really familiar with it. There are many arc length questions for this topic in the app, so get in there, practice them, get the feedback. If you have questions for me, get onto this YouTube video and send questions, and somebody from WhipSmart will get back to you with answers on how to solve it. Okay, so that's all we got for circles. Area and arc length, which includes knowing how to do circumference. So arc length's not that bad. You just have to kind of know that step of what to do with that 120-degree arc length. Okay, vertical angles. Okay, so that's a horrible drawing. These lines don't look like they're parallel, but let's pretend they are, right? Is vertical angles are those the ones that are across from each other, and they are equal. And then you just want to be familiar with the term supplementary angle. When you see that, that means that it adds up to 180. Complementary means that they add up to 90. Okay. A couple more terms here that you may already be completely familiar with, but just to make sure you got them. You see that little thing right there, that little box? That means right angle. Okay, so a right angle is exactly 90 degrees. An acute angle will be less than 90, and obtuse angle is more than 90. If in a right triangle, so for example, so in a triangle makes up 180 degrees. Okay, this one right here, I don't know why I had to do 2 arrows, is 90. So what do we know about these two angles? Right, they're both acute, is the answer that hopefully we get, because we know that combined they can only make up 90 degrees, right? Because 90 plus 90 is 180, right? So we know that both of these angles are going to be less than 90. Less than 90 is acute. That could be an actual question on the test. Okay. Squares and rectangles are both 4-sided figures with 4 right angles. So there's a square, and so within a square, 4 right angles. Okay, the other thing you want to know about a square, 4 equal sides. Okay, so if I see that 5 right there, is I know that means that this is a 5, and this is a 5, and this is a 5. They're all 5s. Okay, so if somebody just tells me, say I didn't have all the stuff that I just drew in there, okay, they just say one side is 5, and for a square, what is the perimeter, right? So I know that's 20 because I know all the sides are 5 if one of them are 5, right? I'm just doing 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. Or if they say what is the area, I know that's 25 because again all the sides are 5. 5 times 5 is 25. And then we mentioned, did we talk about rectangles? I think we did not. Rectangles also have 4 right angles, and the opposite sides are equal. What does that mean? Just make sure we know this, right? Because it's fairly low-hanging fruit. Okay, so if they tell me one of these long sides is 7, then I know that the other longer side is also 7. Okay, but so it's the opposite sides are equal, and if they tell me the shorter side is 3, then I know the other shorter side is 3. Okay, so that's what we need to know with rectangles. So there's rectangles and squares. And then finally, okay, a couple of formulas. So we have trapezoid. Area of a trapezoid is 1/2 base times height. Rhombus can show up. Area of a rhombus is 1/2 times d1 times d2. The d is the diagonal, right? So they'll tend to tell you that within a rhombus there are 2 diagonals, and they'll give you that number, both of those numbers, diagonal 1 and diagonal 2. You plug that in right there. Parallelogram area, pretty simple. It's just base times height. Perimeter parallelogram is 2a plus 2b. So we want to be familiar with those 4, right? Again, area of a trapezoid, 1/2 base times height. Area of a rhombus, 1/2 times the 2 diagonals, d1 times d2. Area of a parallelogram, base times height. Perimeter of parallelogram, 2a plus 2b. So there are a few formulas that we got to be familiar with here for geometry, and hopefully this video has helped you out.